Hi, Colin. Welcome to the Leanpub launch video for Snappy Data Management, hands-on data management and artificial intelligence lessons for business and social science students. Thank you very much for taking some time out of your day to talk to me and talk to our audience about yourself and your book.
It's an absolute pleasure.
Maybe if you just start with sort of introducing yourself briefly, where you're based and what you do.
Sure. So I'm Colin. I'm based out of Halifax, Canada. So the opposite side of the country as you folks, by the East Coast there. And what I do is I'm an assistant professor at Dalhousie University. So I've been working here for the last 5 years. And I teach business students, management students, but also computer science and neuroscience students. And so kind of coming from this eclectic background that somehow led to eventually producing this book.
Yeah, it's a really interesting background, and I know you're doing really interesting work there, particularly you have a background in interdisciplinary studies and things like
that's
that.
Right.
So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about Snappy Data Management. I mean, who is it? Is it for? You sort of put non-technical kind of people it's for in quotes, and you're very careful to talk about what that really means.
Yeah, and so part of the reason why I use that sort of language is because we have this sort of perception that there's this difference between sort of technical people and non-technical people. And the longer I teach in this discipline, the more I realize that that's not the case. These are not really a meaningful distinction. What we actually have is a matter of technical confidence. So people are often not very confident about their own abilities. And so they feel kind of intimidated by sort of technical approaches to teaching computer stuff. So what I do in Snappy Data Management is we learn by doing. A lot of times in business places, we teach a lot by lecturing, and this course turns that on its head. So the course that I teach, I wrote this textbook for that course, and I've expanded it to a much wider market. Basically, what we do is we learn by doing. So for every chapter, there's a sort of introductory sort of discussion about emerging topics related to data, data-driven decision-making, and eventually artificial intelligence. So it kind of works its way through sort of current topics that are driving changes in the business world. But every time that we do this, we do it doing a hands-on exercise. Sometimes we're using technologies like Excel. Sometimes we're using technologies like Python programming language. It goes from really, really general stuff that most business students know to sort of more in-depth hands-on understanding. And ideally, by the time they finish reading the book, ideally taking the course and reading the book, but if you're just reading the book or if you're learning from some of the online materials that are provided, because there are lots of materials provided with this book, eventually it will train you to be familiar and especially to build technical confidence. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, thanks very much for sharing that. It's a really good explanation of it, and it's a very clear book. I really like the sort of way that you sort of you start you actually talk about ones and zeros and bits and stuff like that, but pretty quickly you move on to sort of doing something with CSV files and Excel and things like that. When it comes to the sort of non-technical moniker, I'm sort of Leanpub's non-technical co-founder type of thing but my background was like, I did a doctorate in English literature, but then I became an investment banker and I did a lot of financial modeling in Excel without knowing that I was doing functional programming the whole time.
That is how it goes.
Later, but it is interesting that often that sort of like, you can think that you're non-technical when actually you might be in all kinds of ways without even really knowing it.
Yeah, and especially the next few years, I think we're going to start seeing a massive blurring of these two worlds. There's a lot of chatter right now about how AI is changing, particularly technical markets. So I'm seeing a lot more sort of computer science students want to do more businessy things. And likewise, we're seeing a lot of business type students becoming more involved in the technical stuff. They're probably not learning the theory behind computation, but they are learning more technical things because it's an increasingly important part of what they do.
Definitely. Well, the book, as we mentioned, is Snappy Data Management. Please check it out. The link in the description to this video that you'll hopefully find wherever you find this video. And yeah, Colin, thanks again very much for taking some time just to talk briefly about yourself and about your book.
It's an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much, Len.
Thanks.